Paula Show is on. The Paula Show. Come on, one and all. I extend an invitation to the Paula Show. Join in the conversation. Transforming behavior, recognizing our Savior, overcoming hurdles, achieving dreams. Together we can succeed.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Paula Show. Tonight, we're speaking with Mr. George Ryan. He's 82 years old and he's still actively engaged in business. I have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've also read God in the Marketplace. And I've read also What Makes the Great Great. But I must tell you that these books do not stimulate my desire to succeed and do well in life and in business as much as my conversation with Mr. George Ryan. You too can be stimulated to greatness tonight. We have lots of information to share about the construction industry, about entrepreneurship, and also about personal development. Stay with us on the Paula Show tonight. It's a learning experience, and I know that it will do well for you, just as it has started to do for me. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Stay with us, please. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember to like me on Facebook, The Paula Show. Send me an email at thepaulashowtv@gmail.com. The Paula Show is broadcast via CTV Channel 2 on Tuesday nights at 9, and Sundays there's a rebroadcast at 1 in the afternoon. Please remember to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, The Paula Show. You may also subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Paula Show. Our conversation tonight is with Mr. George Ryan, and I bet you it's going to be a very rich conversation. I can hardly wait to start. Mr. Ryan, you're originally from Montserrat.
I am.
And you grew up in a modest environment.
I sure did.
You sure did. And your mom and you migrated to Antigua when you were about 12 years old.
Yes.
Were you sad to leave Montserrat?
Not really. Leaving Montserrat, although all of my school friends and so on were left behind, it was for my good.
Okay.
Because I used to suffer a lot from, I used to be very ill. And at one time I was given over to be dead.
Wow.
And the doctor recommended that we had a change of residence, one for one, either move from the other one side of the country to the other side or travel abroad. And
so
my mother, who were living in Antigua at that time, decided that she would bring me over to Antigua,
And
which I was very glad for.
You are one of the best contractors that Antigua has ever known, and it started with a Pentecostal building.
Sure
Church
did.
building.
Yes.
Yes.
And the contractor then was one of the evangelist preachers of Antigua, Jack Piper. And my mother and I were living with him because she were the maid in those days. And so we were happy. And then, I had to do the chores around the yard and all that sort of thing. But my first introduction to construction was with Jack Piper.
And it has done you well.
Oh, it was paid off.
And then from there, you did part-time jobs, and then you, as an adult, you were given the task of refurbishing the tower for the Westcotts.
Yes. In those days, learning to know the different tools and use them was quite a feat for me in those days. And after leaving Jack Piper's tutelage, I joined Donald Christian, the contractor, who won Antigua most, and I would say most experienced contractor. He
still
is a
alive?
fantastic young man. It's a pity he died
Okay.
at an early age. But he, even the Davis building over by the country pond, that green stone building
Yes.
was built by him.
By him.
And quite a few other buildings around town.
So you
But
learned a lot
A
from
lot
him.
from Donald
And then
Christian.
you went on to refurbish the tower
Yes.
in Crosby's.
Yes, when after working with Christian for a while, I decided that I would branch out because he was slowing down in his business
Okay.
and were paying more attention to furniture and door building and window building. And I decided that I would not go to sit at home and do nothing. I got on to the Westcott family in Crosby's, and they right away developed quite a trust me to the extent where they would want me to do things on my own without having an overseer. And I did very well with them, turning the foul coops into apartment buildings.
Wow.
Most of them are still there, still standing. And from that, he got a lot of rent. Then a tower came. It was just standing there as an old sugar mill, one of these sugar towers. And Lee Westcott said he would like to put a penthouse on top of it.
But there were contractors who said that you would have to use a wooden floor, but you insisted on a concrete floor.
They wanted a concrete floor.
Oh, they wanted a concrete floor.
They wanted a concrete floor.
And you insisted on a wooden floor.
No. They wanted a concrete floor, and there are other contractors who felt that a concrete floor would be too heavy.
Oh, they meaning the Westcotts wanted a concrete floor.
Yes.
But the other contractors felt it would be
it'd
too heavy. So they should opt for a wooden floor.
For this, because
Yes.
this tower was hundreds of years old.
Yes.
And it was a sugar mill. And how could you put a concrete structure on top of that without bringing columns from the ground up to support it? Mr. Lee Westcott and I decided that they would do it without any sort of ground support, not even for the stairway going up into the tower had any ground support.
Did you think that you could do it, or you were just taking a chance?
When you look at how construction can support itself even on one column, take for instance the center of that tower is just about 10 feet in circumference. Yet we were able to stick the building off the center
Yes.
over 16 feet. So that stand out there at the cantilever, sticking out there without a single support from the ground.
How
up.
long ago was that?
Oh, that was over almost 30 years ago now.
And have they refurbished it several times?
No, still the great old tower standing there.
So it means that you would have done an excellent job.
We feel that way. Yeah. The fruit is in the taste of the pudding is in the
Is
eating.
in the eating.
And it had withstand earthquake, hurricane, all sort of weather. In fact, there used to be a gentleman by the name of they used to have townhouse, and a white man. And as soon as that tower was finished, that penthouse, as they call it, was finished, he wanted to rent it. And he succeeded in renting it because he wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle
He wants to
and
be
of
high.
town. And then he don't have to think about security because you couldn't get up there
Right.
unless you
From the inside.
from the inside.
Yes.
And so he was well secured.
All right.
It's a good job. And Paula, we did not remove one stone out of that tower.
They use the original.
Yes, but not only
material.
use the original, but the attachment is what you have to think about. We drill holes through the stones and insert our heavy steel, and from there is where the support comes.
This sounds to me like the Egyptians building the pyramids, and up to this day, we cannot conceive how it was done without all the sophisticated equipment that we use in construction today. We're on the Paula Show, and we're speaking with Mr. George Ryan. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Stay with us, please. Thank you for staying with us on the Paula Show. Tonight we're speaking with George Ryan, and now we will be speaking primarily about construction. That is a very important topic, and I want to know, why is it that construction costs are so expensive in Antigua and Barbuda? Mr. Ryan, we're getting to that question in a bit, but I just want to know, how many buildings have you constructed locally?
I believe over 100.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Private for yourself and for your clients?
Yes. Both for myself and client. This very house is one of my first
you
building.
constructed this house?
I constructed. This is over 42 years old.
Wow, never been damaged by a hurricane or anything?
There's no cracks. There's no...
For 42 years?
Yes. There's no changing of anything. No changing of
No
the
tiles,
tiles.
anything?
The roofing tiles, as you say, they are acoustics, and we have never changed anything. We have never changed
Interesting.
anything. Never.
Have you been ever sued by a client?
Never. Every job that I've undertaken or I signed a contract for, finished within time and within the cost.
No overrun?
Never had an overrun.
Never?
Never had an overrun.
Is it because of your values, or because the contracts you want to make sure that you follow the contract to the T?
If you undertake to do a building for, let's say, Paula, and that building, both you, your contractor and the owner, which is Paula in this instance, is the owner. We sit at a table, we iron out all the differences before we start. Now, if you want changes while the construction is going on, it is possible to have those changes. It might cost less or more.
Do I give you a lump sum? Do I give you a lump sum?
No. I've never worked off a lump sum in my whole life. We sign a contract, and that contract is divided into 4 parts. 25% to each completed stage.
Okay.
And that, my contract always read, at completion of. In other words, phase 1, which is 25% of the whole construction,
And
is
that will be from
from foundation to floor.
Okay.
And when that is completed, you or even me get somebody to value what was done according to the contract. See if it was done according to drawings.
So this is an independent person?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
You request the second
a
stage.
request is made for payment by me, and that is signed off on, and I will get my 25%. That 25% come with 5% less for that is called a retention.
Why do you do that?
Well, it must be done in all construction if you're a contractor.
5% return?
5% must be held by the owner for his or her own protection over the life of the contract.
Interesting. So what does the 5% represent? I keep it, and if it's not used, then that's my money to keep?
No. That is still the contractor's money. But that is a matter of security for you. Just in case, during the contract life, after you've turned the building over to the owner,
So the contractor turns the building over to me.
turn it over to you.
Yes.
You hold that
5%.
retention or that 5% for 90 days. Within that 90 days, you check your building from time to time and see if there's any crack or any defacing of any funny
Yes.
thing that take place on the building.
Tiles
For instance,
rising,
tiles
cracking.
are coming up, and all that sort of paint start to peel off,
Yes.
and all that sort of thing.
So when that
The
happens,
only thing that the contractor is not going to be responsible for, if within that period you had an earthquake, and
acts of God.
right.
But then I love this, Mr. Ryan, because what happens if when I hold that 5% retention and there's some cracks, there's some flaws, do I call the contractor?
You have to, in writing, write him and tell him that you observe there are certain things developing on the building, like you're having cracks,
Yeah.
you're having
Suppose he
the wooden
ignores me.
part of the building, which might be the roof and so on, is moving away from the concrete part of it, or you notice there are shrinkage and all that kind of thing, or there are cracks, or the paint start to yellow or paint.
So after I've explained all that to him in writing, suppose he ignores me, he doesn't come.
Okay, you give him a period of maybe weeks to reply. You write a second letter, and it still don't show up.
It sounds like when you're stacking up someone's file, like you're getting ready to fire them. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And you
Yes.
certainly remind him
Yes.
that I have wrote you this letter on such and such a
Yes.
date. I have not yet received a reply from you. What is going on? And he
still
never
doesn't
replies.
come.
And never come. You are at liberty now to hire another contractor to do the repairs on the.
So that 5%, I can pay that contractor from. But then suppose it requires more than the 5% that I've kept.
Well, what you have to make sure that you get is a reliable estimate
Okay.
for the work that is at hand to be done. And see to it also that it is done properly. Okay? If it's an overrun at that time, the contractor is still responsible.
The original contractor
The
is
original
responsible.
contractor. Because the damage of such that the 5% cannot cover it. So you're at liberty to ask him to pay the difference. Failure to do so, the court is yours.
But Mr. Ryan, you operated in this manner. Is this the standard? Or is this just
It
your
is-
value system?
No, it is the way construction where-
Ought.
should operate at all times.
By whose standards?
Those are the standards that laid out in whatever
Manual?
or whatever you might have. You have several manuals. Take, for instance, I have a book which tell you how much work a carpenter should do in a day.
In a day.
This has nothing to do with what you pay him.
Yes.
You understand? If you're laying a floor, how much floorboard you must put down in a day. Okay?
On average.
The book will never tell you whether you should pay him $10 or $3 or $4 an hour. That is up to the laws of the country.
So this contract, should it be a contract between the contractor and the client? A lawyer should be involved. It has to be certified.
It should be, you can have a contract between two persons.
Yes.
As long as it's signed off on. But it is always best
To have it certified.
to have it certified by a lawyer
notary public.
and drawn up by a lawyer.
You said you've never had an overrun.
Never. I dare anyone in Antigua to come to the radio station or the TV station and say, yes, You have had the overrun with me, but you have to bring the facts.
So all your customers have been satisfied? 100%.
Satisfied.
I am telling you, I'm sitting in the company of a gentleman who does his work by proper business standards. He's never written a bounce check. He has never had an overrun, and he was a contractor. And from time to time, he still fiddles around with on the construction site, but he's not formally working now. It's just from time to time, you're very selective with your projects. I am amazed at what he's explaining here tonight, because we know we've heard some horror stories about contractors in Antigua and Barbuda. Stay with us on the Paula Show. Coming up next, more information from Mr. George Ryan. Thank you for staying with us. Mr. Ryan, there are times when we've heard of contractors who seem to be running their business like a Ponzi scheme. So you take some money from me, a lump sum, because you're saying we should not pay contractors lump sum, so we should pay them in increments. But there's some contractors who would take a lump sum and then they will use this lump sum to build a house. They do not manage the money well, so they get a second lump sum from another person, and they're using that second person's money to finish the first project. And it continues like that until the contractor runs out of steam, and there are many white elephants across Antigua and Barbuda, unfinished buildings.
Most of it is the client's fault.
Really, Mr. Ryan?
Yes. When I say that, I will explain. Not that the client is responsible for the sponsor scheme that this guy is running, but what is happening? Normally you cannot have a house, a proper house built in Antigua under $200 and something thousand. And for you to take up $100,000 and put in the man's hand without a contract, without him showing how he's going to spend your money, have something that
he's giving estimates.
Holding an estimate is not a contract.
So in addition to an estimate, you need a contract.
You need an estimate only to guide you, the client, as to what it takes to build your house.
So how do we prevent these contractors from being dishonest and stop running these Ponzi schemes with clients?
By having an overseer. That overseer might only charge about maybe a couple of $100
per day.
No.
Okay.
For the whole job,
for
to
the project,
supervise
like a project manager,
and to see what is going on according to the contract.
Yes.
And according to the blueprint or the drawings that you are following to the letter, what is drawn on that.
And that person will raise an alarm.
And that person will tell you.
Amiss.
And as I said from the beginning, building go by phase. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and completion. At completion, when you turn the key over, okay? Phase 1 is wrong, you're in for trouble for phase 2.
So
and
if there's a problem with phase 1, let's not continue to phase 2.
If phase 1 is not complete, there should be no money. Okay? It has to be complete. Now, you may have what you call a procurement sum. But that procurement is figured into the contract, into the price of the contract. Okay? And at sometimes you'll catch up to that procurement. Procurement means you can do a contract, you can do a house in many ways. You can have a contractor doing everything, supplying material, labor, and equipment. You can have it another way. You can have where you supply the material, and he is only in charge of,
so he tells
of the
me
labor.
what he requires.
Now, if he's just doing labor, there's no way you're going to give him any
lump sum,
procurement or advance money.
Yes.
Because he have not advanced anything. Until he advance work, it's not the time you get paid for what you have advanced.
So while we're on the construction phase of a building and the contractor says to me, it's raining.
It's not your problem. It's not the owner's problem.
So it's raining, he wants to be paid, but the work is not being done.
He have a right, if there's so much rain, to ask for extension of time, not more money. Okay?
So halt the project,
He can,
negotiate extension of time.
let's say there's a strike,
Yes.
things like that. He can put the project on hold, but he can ask you for you to pay him for those days that he
Because he didn't work.
and if any of his workmen took him to the union and they have a problem that he have to pay out money, he can't come to you for the money.
He has to pay the money.
That's his business.
Because he should have factored.
He have to insure the building, whatever material he carry on.
Insure the
he have to
building.
insure it
But it's my
to
house.
safeguard himself, because you have given him your money. He have not returned to you as yet what you have paid for.
So until he turns over the house to me, he's
responsible for
security.
it's acts of
People
God,
stealing.
acts of God, stealing, hurricane,
So, Mr. Ryan, one
earthquake.
second. So somebody breaks into the house when it's under construction, steals the bathtub, steals the faucet, steals whatever I have. It's the contractor's responsibility.
Bad luck to him. He's got
So
that.
he should replace them.
He have to. That is in the drawing. You can't give me a house and don't have a bathtub in it if there's a bathtub is on the drawing.
Interesting.
Yes. That is his
Mr.
responsibility.
Ryan, this is such a revelation tonight.
Yeah.
Because people have been replacing what has been stolen.
No, sir.
Because they're of the view that it's their responsibility, the home home builder.
The
homeowner,
contractor
sorry.
is solely responsible for what takes place on that site until it's turned over to you. Security, material, the type of work that he's doing, whether you accept it, if you're supervisor, because you may have a supervisor that supervises him, and we tell you, well, look, he's not doing a good job, and he's going to write him a letter, draw it to his attention that this is faulty work, and I want it fixed before you go any further. Now, you have a right to stop him too, you know. If the work is not progressing the way that it should, you can call it off. And estimate,
Notwithstanding, we have a contract.
notwithstanding you have a contract, because it is not progressing according to plans.
According to plan.
Okay?
What? Okay. Oh, Mr. Ryan, I want to talk to you about so many factors of building. In terms of money, when you started your business at first, clearly you would not have had capital.
No.
So,
Yeah, not all of it.
right. So what did you do?
I had at that time a good rapport with my bank, which is CIBC,
No, First Caribbean.
now First Caribbean.
My bank too.
And I took my contract into the manager of the bank and said, look, I want you to partner with me here. Okay? My contract worth X $1,000. I also got to sign that the completion payments, all of it will come to the bank. You will take yours that you had advanced me, and you'll
leave
put
the
the
rest.
balance for me in my checking account or in some other account. Okay?
That's a smart move.
So, and this is the way I work all along.
And they facilitated
I
you?
have never had a day or a week or a month I did not pay my workmen. Never. You see some contractor have their workmen sticking up outside their place and waiting on for infinitum to be paid. Never happened to me. Thank God.
So you're a good money manager.
Whatever. I am a good steward. Yeah.
What are your vices? Do you gamble?
No,
Drugs?
I don't gamble.
Cigarette?
No.
Alcohol.
At one time, I used to like girls and so on. But, you know,
That's
who
your.
can't blame a good man for that?
So if I have to ask again, whatever, you would say girls. Oh, Mr.
But
Ryan,
at the-
girls cause business to be destroyed and fold up
Yes.
because businessmen sometimes they don't understand that romance and business cannot mix.
My dear,
Yes.
is the value you put on whatever you're doing. Okay? Your priorities are there. Those are first. In all of my undertaking, whether in hardware store, hotel, or whatever, I pay myself a salary. I live by that.
Budget.
I live by that salary. Not going into the business and pulling out
You've
and
never-
just to make a girl look happy or anybody for that matter. I take care of my house first. For men to be using that as an excuse for their failure in life is somewhat far out.
We're having fun with Mr. Ryan on the Paula Show. We're speaking business, but he's also very entertaining. Coming up in the next segment, we'll be speaking more about construction industry and entrepreneurship.